Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where the orchard of wisdom shows are at your fingertips. It ignites your soul, your heart, your spirit, your mind, and your body with illumination from people who have made the journey before you. They're here now to help you on your journey, on your path of self-discovery. We are funded by you, the audience, and the people we interview. If you wish to support us, please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com and press on our Fund Action button. Anything is appreciated. We'd like you to sit back and enjoy the shows. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful guest today is LisaBeth Thomas. Oh, trauma. We know what that's all about. Tragedies. We've all been through them. Fears. Yes, everybody's faced fear, and many people are still facing fear. How do we get rid of that? She says what jazzes her up is helping people discover fears that sabotage their relationships and successes and makes a difference in their lives. All of us have fears. Some of us are healthy and some are unhealthy. Unhealthy fears can keep us trapped in a negative behaviors or situations and can lead anxiety and a lack of production and success. In this show, you'll discover the fear is a subconsciously sabotaging your actions and create a strategy to outwit them. Now we have Outwit and Outplay, that show that's been going on there for a very, very long time. And she's been doing this for 30 years, experiencing creative, successful advertising and public relation campaigns, an award-winning producer. And she's got the knowledge, she's got the wisdom, she's got the life experience behind it. So let's dive in and just find out why this is so important for her to eliminate your fears and have you step into your own beautiful abundance in life. Because after all, that's what we're here for, isn't it, LisaBeth?
It is. And Sarah, I'm glad you're recording this because I'm going to keep that introduction and play it every morning because that was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pump me up.
Well, you know, the topic pumps me up is that we are here on this planet to go through the process of our own self-discovery, and we are given fears and obstacles and challenges along the way. And you know, a lot of people think this is happening to me. No, it's happening for you, and there's always a reason there why it's there, and it is for you to discover your courage, your strength, your abilities, you know, your tenacity. And when we step into that process, which I know you have a wonderful program on that, which we will talk about, we really do discover how awesome we are in our flawsomeness. And it's that flawsomeness that really carries us through like a beautiful flawed diamond. So fear isn't anything to really be afraid about, is it?
No, it isn't. It's just it's facing it. It's so scary. And the thing I found is the minute you walk through it, the minute you go, okay, I'm going to face this, I'm going to walk through it. I swear, everybody I've talked to that does that, most of the time, 95% of the time, they go, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's facing that fire.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was your fire?
My fire was, to say I was on top of the world, I would say that in the business world, absolutely. I was in a bad marriage, and I really should have been out of that marriage for a long time. But through the divorce, and so my business, advertising marketing, had an ad agency here in Austin, Texas for almost, well, I think it was about 15 years, but in marketing advertising for 30. And during the divorce, some things came out in the sense of our personal taxes. My business partner was also my husband, were not filed, and 3 years.
Oh,
and
boy.
If you know what interest and penalty daily compounded on personal taxes, 3 sets of them for 6 and 8 years daily. Yeah. So during,
it's a big bill.
It's a big bill. And during the divorce, more and more came out. And so then when we divorced, he left the business. And so the IRS then came after me. It wasn't business taxes, but because I had the money coming in through the business. So I was robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Oh, I know that
I was
feeling.
doing whatever I could. And so it got to the point where I finally had to close my business,
Mm.
dissolve it, to pay, to stop the bleeding. I had to sell my house to pay off the IRS. So I
Oh.
was homeless. I literally was homeless. I wasn't under a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was sleeping on people's couches. Luckily, my kids were older, so they weren't
Mm.
dealing with it, even though they were dealing with it.
Yes.
And this happened in a 3.5 month period, and my mom died, right? So lost my business, lost my home, lost my mom.
Mm.
Yeah.
So triple whammy. Um, and normally one is bad enough, but the universe works in very strange ways, and that cosmic
Yeah.
2x4 to flatten you
Yeah.
just means it's time for you as a phoenix to rise as a different flower.
And that's exactly what it was. I mean, I went from being on the red carpet, doing movie junkets, working with Robert Rodriguez, interviewing movie. I mean, we were a 7-figure ad agency. And Sarah, the thing I think that scared me the most, and I'm sure your viewers and listeners can identify with this, is if I lose this, when I had to face it and lose it, that was my identity.
Who am I now?
Who am I now? People like me because I go to movies and I know celebrities and I have parties. Are they going to still like me? What a scary thing to do, but that's what we do. You know, who
Yes.
are you? And when we introduce ourselves, we introduce our business.
And why are we validated by other people's opinion?
Right.
As shallow as it is, because if they can't be with you through the turbulent times, they aren't the people you want with you in the good times.
Right. But it's not until you get into those turbulent times, you know who are going to stick with you.
Yes.
And that's the scary part. Who's going to be my friend? Am I still going to have friends? Am I still going to be liked? And I was very, very fortunate. I had all my family knew what was going on. My inner circle knew something was bad, but they didn't know how bad until I finally had to come clean and tell everybody. And I had to tell all my clients. I had to tell all my media reps. And only one gave me crap about having to dissolve my business and leaving, not being able to pay my final bill. Everybody else was supportive. They offered me jobs. They put money in my pocket. It was wonderful. But finally having to face it was the worst.
Yes.
And so,
because you feel like a failure, don't you? And it wasn't your failure. It's, well, why didn't you know what your husband was doing? Oh, please, excuse me. Are we their master? Are we their parent? Do we have to watch everything? Each one of us is responsible for our own actions.
right.
All right. And you're not responsible for your husband's actions.
Yeah.
Right. So there is the onus that he has to take now. And that's his journey to take now. That he, from what he's done to you, what he's done to himself, and where he has to go from here. That's his journey to take of recovery there, and self-forgiveness and asking for your forgiveness.
Absolutely. And I try to believe that he just didn't say, I'm not going to file these because, and I'm going to screw her. I think it was just one of these, I disagree, I'll do it later, I'll disagree, I'll do it later. And then we got divorced. So then it became a head thing.
Yes.
But when I finally found freedom is when I stopped blaming him.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest lessons when you're facing fear, because when you're constantly saying they did that to me and they did that, you can't fix anything when it's somebody else's. And so I finally had to say, okay, how am I responsible? What can I do? Then when you take ownership, that's when the healing and freedom starts.
Yes. This pointing of the finger, this 3 pointing back. Right. And it's like, I had the turbulent marriage, not a physical beater, but a brow beater. And I realized that I could essentially gave him the boots to kick me with, proverbially. And it's only when I took those boots back and said no more that, he couldn't kick me anymore. But he had to own the fact that he put the boots on and kicked me. Right. So
I love that analogy.
So it was, I had to place self-worth on myself in my own self-recovery and not worry about what everybody else thought. right? That's the big
Right.
one. And especially in the position where you were literally in the limelight. And all of a
Hmm.
sudden, where did Elizabeth go? Oh, didn't you hear? And
Yes.
then it's
Yeah.
always what's going to come back. And it's like nobody gets success in life without a few bottom falls along the way. I don't like to call them failures because I like to call them lessons,
Yeah.
redirections. And if we're not paying attention to the signs that we're meant to redirect, then along comes that cosmic 2x4. Okay, I'm going to flatten you.
Yeah.
So you have to rise back up in a different realm. You can't rise back up in the same because there's a new direction that you need to go in. And, sometimes it's kicking and screaming. There was no on you that your business was thriving.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You'd still be
Absolutely.
in it now,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But for
Hmm.
some reason, you were meant to take a different direction. And it's out of your struggle, out of your trauma, out of your pain that you're now more able to help other people go through their process and find their own individual success.
And absolutely. And so I tell people it was the absolute worst time of my life, but it was
Yes.
also the best time of
Yeah.
my life. And when I'm the founding president for Texas Women in Business, and I had to wear a mask, all the time, like everything's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. And yes, and I
Kind of the
finally,
schizo doll.
yes. And I was on stage, and I wasn't the president at the time, but I was on stage. I don't remember why. And I started to introduce something. And I finally stopped and said, I have to tell you all what's going on in my world. I can't do this anymore. And there was 150 women in the room, maybe. And I verbally vomited everything that was going on,
God.
just told everything. And Sarah, there was a line of women waiting to talk to me saying,
Yeah.
thank you for telling us, because I'm
Yes.
going through this. I'm going through this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dying on the
Mm-hmm.
inside. I hurt so
Mm-hmm.
bad.
Yes. You
And I
gave them
realized how
permission by
important,
giving yourself permission.
right.
Yes. Yeah.
And that opened up women to be able to say, I need help, or who
Yeah.
can I talk to? Or can you have a glass of wine so I can cry on somebody's shoulder because I can't tell this person?
Right.
I think it's
There
so
was your
important for
redirect.
us.
There was
Yeah,
your redirect, right?
yeah. It's
Yeah.
important for us to be honest with people
Mm.
and take the masks off. And it helps so many people. And again, I was listening to several of your podcasts, and that's what it's about. It's being real and
Mm.
authentic and
Yeah.
being true to yourself.
And that's the kind of people I interview. Is people who've kind of become the book success. I learned it, I studied it, I'm doing it, but they haven't had the life um, ups and downs. Is that you may be knowledge based, but are you wisdom based? And the
Right.
wisdom comes from that life experience. It comes from, as we talked about beforehand, prioritizing.
Yeah.
What really is important? What can you let go? Where do you really want to put your energy? And you drop the facade of I'm doing this because I'm scared of losing people if they will still like me, or
Right.
I've got to look good, or I've got to look important for people to like me. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden you just look at that in the face and you go, hell, do I want those people anyway?
Right. Right. Yeah, you want people that add value to your life and
Yes.
that are growing, and you can grow together. I've several really good friends that we're always kind of bouncing off each other and
Mm.
sharing ideas and growth. And we're there when something's bad, but we're also really cheering them on when something's good.
Yeah. And those are lifesavers. I back to technology. Nothing wrong with the technology, but the people we did it with ended up bankrupt, ended up living out of my car, with a
You didn't
dog. Yep.
look at
Yeah.
us, sister. High five, sister.
Exactly. Ended up losing everything and being at the end of my rope. And, you know, um, depression is in my vocabulary, and I was in a depression. I know when I'm in a depression, I've got to be proactive. I've got to go and help someone else. So I go down the rabbit hole. I wrote an article. Somebody saw that article and said, oh, I'd love you to do a podcast on my network. And I said, what's a podcast? That was 10
And
years
now you
ago.
are one.
Yeah, 10
Yeah.
years ago this week. And I started with her, did 13 months live, and then went on to start my own network. which in June is 9 years, I had no idea where this was going to take me. I had no idea the impact it was going to have. I had no idea if anybody was even going to listen. But
Right.
that's the point of the
That's
journey, isn't it?
beautiful.
That's the
Yeah.
discovery. You know who you've been, you know
Yeah.
what your assets are, you know what you're good at, but until we're willing to explore a new path, that self-discovery of what else is out there, who else am I? What
Yeah.
else can I do? We don't know what we're capable of. And if we're willing just to immerse ourselves into that, it's really quite extraordinary what you discover about yourself,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I think the biggest obstacle is ourselves.
Oh God, yes.
If we would get out of our own way, and you'll relate to the story. I was with a friend of mine, Melinda Garvey. She owns Austin Woman magazine here in Austin, and we went to her beach house down in Galveston, and it was Saturday night. I said, I'm going to get up early, and this is during the height of losing everything. I said, I'm going to get up early because I'm going to go walk the beach at sunrise, talk to God. I just need some time. So I went down to the beach and I'm walking along, and honest to God, I'm embarrassed to say, but I was looking for money. I was looking for an engagement ring that
Mm-hmm.
maybe had washed up. I was looking for anything for
Yes.
money because I was out of
Survival.
money.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I need to pay my mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get gas money home. So I kept looking for it. And I said out loud, God, show me the treasure on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And Sarah, I am not kidding. As clear as a bell, I heard, LisaBeth, you are the treasure on the beach.
Hello.
And
Hello.
I heard that and I stopped and I looked around and I went, oh my God, that was God. Okay. And now it took me a couple of years to really get what he meant by that. But I do believe we're all the treasure. We are,
Yes.
every single
Yes.
person is the treasure on the beach. It's just that the things that life has thrown to us that we've let stick to us, or we've gotten afraid of, or we're hiding behind something. And mine was the fears of not being good enough or not worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Those were big. Those dictated my life. And I didn't know they were. I didn't realize not standing up for myself or not speaking up or letting people's opinions supersede. I didn't know I was even doing it. That's why I talk about sabotage.
Yes.
Sometimes we don't even know because it's happening back here.
Yes. And it's a pattern sometimes that's not even our own. It's,
Right.
it's family, it's ancestry,
Right.
it's even past life. And it's like, well, why do I keep doing this? The intellect knows. And you kind of, okay, I'm going to do something different next time. And you just walk straight back into another lion's den,
Yeah.
right? And
Right.
the facade of it looks different, but the pattern is the same.
Yes.
And it's like, well, this is self-sabotaging. Why is it that that is all I see to go to? So I need to change my perception, not of what is out there, but what is in here.
Here. Yes. Yes. And I think of it as, I just have to say, because it was funny when you said that it was my mom. I mean, I can see, I look back and go, oh my God, that was my mom, and some of the things that she struggled with, I struggled with, and wouldn't even should struggle with it, but because my mom did. So you're right, the patterns are there. And that's the beauty of it. We can, if we've learned it, we can unlearn it.
Yeah.
And I learned early on in this discovery that we're born only with two fears. We're born with the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. That's it.
Really? Yeah, actually, you're right. Yes. Yes.
That is it. So everything else we've picked up along the way from someone, something, some experience, somebody having a bad day, they said something snarky to us and we just took it to heart. And that's the part that's amazing to me, how much we take on of what other people's, as you said, opinions are.
Yes.
So,
On judgments.
oh,
Oh my God. I mean, let's just take Will Smith at the Oscars the other day,
yeah.
and it's like, yeah, his reaction was completely out there,
Uncalled for.
uncalled for. And he
Yeah.
knows he's better than that. I mean, everybody was astonished Will did that
Yeah.
because we
As
know.
much as he does, as much as he talks
Yes.
motivation and love,
Yes.
that
Yes.
was, I honest to God, and still watching the video now and then, yet today, was, you can't help but go, was that a skit? That was so out of character for him.
I know. And it's like, what took him over at that time? And you know that it isn't just that comment. There's some bad blood between them anyway. And it's always the attack on his wife. And, you know, his wife's going through some emotional stuff right now. He's in a heightened and emotional state anyway with this movie
Yeah.
that he's invested in and everything. And I think it's just that trigger. We never know when that trigger's going. And, you know, the comment that Denzel Washington is, you know, at your highest, the devil comes calling. And, you know, the devil did come calling at that moment. But the thing is, the comments that we see, Tor and Corder, take the Oscar away from him, throw him in jail. And it's like, oh, please back off. He knows he did wrong. He has apologized. If you need to do something else for conversation, absolutely. But if we cannot forgive people for a momentary thing, he didn't shoot the guy, right? Yeah. Right. We don't know what else has gone through there, whether it felt deserved, it was the wrong place. But when we stop trying to understand why somebody does something, what causes them to do that, what pain is inside of them at that moment that makes them, you know, not think but react. If we could show more compassion to people at that time, instead of immediately out with the pitchforks and the judgment and the damnation, which we know gathers a hysterical tornado and a hurricane of hate. Folks, haven't you got your fill of hate already?
Yes. Yes.
I know I'm up here with it.
I know. I'm with you on that. And that is such a good point, because again, everybody's got something.
Yes.
We've all done something or said something when we wish we wouldn't have. And hopefully we've had somebody that's been loving and kind to us.
Yeah. And not a camera on us.
Not a camera and 100 million people watching. Yes. And one of the things that I talk about a lot with my kids, and in my course, Outwitting Fear, we talk about what you just said, reacting, is that if it takes our brain 3 to 5 seconds to break that trigger of whatever's set you off, whatever's punched you in the gut. It only takes 3 to 5 seconds for you to change that, to take one small step, to think of something else, or take a breath, a deep breath, whatever it is for you to take 3 to 5 seconds. So you respond, not react.
Right.
And that's what happens, is we react out of fear, and it gets us in trouble.
Yes.
But if we go, okay, hold on, maybe mom was right, count to 10, think before you speak.
Take a breath.
Take a breath. I have a friend that said, oh my God, I feel like my shoulder blades are up to my ears. And so we turned that into a stretch. So now she just stretches instead and then responds. And if we would respond with kindness and love, and again, grace, give and give ourselves grace. That's one of the things I've been thinking about, is how much we beat ourselves up when we screw up. And if we would give ourselves the grace that we give to other people, I mean, I know in the past, I would say things to myself that I would never say to somebody else.
Oh, if the flies were on the wall.
Right? Right?
Yes. I mean, we're our own worst persecutors. We don't need anybody else to do it for us. We're doing a very good job ourselves. Thank you very much.
Doing excellent job.
And at some point you have to look at that and go, okay, how is that benefiting you? And an exercise I used to do with my clients is, I want a column of everything that you feel is against you in life. Everything that's negative, everything that you hate, write it down. And then in the other column, write everything that you're grateful for, everything that you have. Now take a good look at each column and decide which one to feed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if we're going to feed the resentment and the pain and the anguish, guess what, folks?
More comes. It's that good old law of attraction.
Yes.
The more we focus on, the more we bring in. And so many of us know that. And that's what it's about. It's focusing on the positive. And it took me a while, but I made myself be very aware every time I called myself an idiot, or God, I can't believe you did that. Whenever those words would come into my mouth out loud or in my head, I would stop myself. And it got to the point where it took me a while to realize I was doing it. And then I would catch it. It's a muscle. It was practicing.
Yes.
And I don't remember the last time I said something mean to myself.
Yeah.
I started practicing that because I thought, this is not doing me any good at all. So it's really turning what you just said, like instead of even in my head, that negative self-talk or those horrible things, thinking about the positive and turning that around. And my favorite are the what ifs. I mean, we could go all day on what if would happen, right? what if this would happen? What if that happens? What if they say that? What if? My daughter called me one time and was listing off this whole things of what if with this new job opportunity. And I said, oh my God, what if a meteorite hits the earth tonight? And she goes, what are you talking about? And I went,
what if you were making an excuse?
right.
You know, what if those what if is are all excuses of why you want to do it?
Yeah.
Or don't want to do it, you know? But, you
Yeah.
know, change the game, put the what ifs in the other column.
Exactly. That's where I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah,
Because,
what if it's bigger than what I think? What if this leads me down a path that is extraordinary? And again, what you feed is what will grow. So if you feed them, what if it's possible?
Yeah.
All those beautiful possibilities are going to be there. You know, social media given a bad rap because all I get is hate. Well, what are you feeding? It's an algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
So what you put out is what they're going to give you back. We're an algorithm in our energy signature. What we put out is what we're going to get back. Feed the possibilities with excitement and a wonderment, and be willing to take that journey of that discovery in an enlightened vibration. And that what if is going to be bigger than anything you could ever thought of.
Yeah, it is. You get what you give.
Yes.
And that excitement that creates that excitement. And I think also when you are looking at possibilities and blessings and gratefulness, you see them.
Yes.
You know, if I wake up in the morning and say, if this is going to be a horrible day, I'm going to look for everything to validate that. And see my coffee was weak, the dog went to the bathroom on the car, whatever. Yeah. But if you wake up and say, this is going to be my best day yet, I'm going to look for reasons to make that real. Make that happen. You're going to look, it's truly a choice.
It is.
It's truly a choice.
Under this title, Choose Positive Living. That is really what it's about. We can't choose what's going to happen to us, but we can choose how we react to it and what we do with it. Because if we look at everything, however catastrophic, as an opportunity, maybe it's an opportunity to learn. Maybe it's an opportunity. I mean, when I was homeless and living out of the car, obviously, you know, where's the next meal? My car didn't even have insurance on it. So trying to navigate streets so police wouldn't see us, and then where are we going to get food, and had a dog to feed as well. But the people that you meet along the way, right? They are the lessons that you're meant to learn, the humility that you're meant to learn, your own self-discovery you're meant to learn. It's not, this experience isn't out to get you, it's out to teach you.
It really is. It really is. And I look at my past when I was in the middle of my past, and then I was looking at everything through that negativity when I was going through it, because I was carrying it.
That's the pain.
It's the pain. And two things I realized that was happening is that the more I told my story, I know there's healing in that. And I did allow myself to grieve. And I think sometimes with best intentions, people will say, just buck it up. You can do it. Pull up your boots by the bootstraps and go for it. But what happens is that you shove that down and it's going to come out somewhere else.
Oh, yeah. Dis-ease.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. So I allowed myself to grieve, but I found the more I was telling my story, I wanted people to validate my story. I wanted people to say, oh, you poor thing. Yeah. God, no wonder why. Oh, you are right to be miserable. And I realized it was just feeding me, staying in that spiral of depression.
Yes.
And lots of hope. So one day I went, okay, that's when I accept my accepted responsibility. When I stopped saying, you know what he did to me? Don't you feel sorry for me? When I went, I'm going to stay here forever if I keep doing that.
Exactly.
So I had to draw a line in the sand and say, no, okay, what was my role in that? Why didn't I ask questions? Why didn't I see where things were? Why didn't, why? And then, okay, I'm responsible. I didn't ask. I didn't inquire. I didn't follow through. Whatever it was, it took it off of him. And then I was able to go, now what am I going to do? Kind of, so what, that happened. Now what am I going to do about it?
Right. That's the key question. And you can't get to that question until you've gone through the pain and then the recovery, which is the healing of self. And Yes, okay. I've got scars. I've got scars from things that have happened to me in my life. Those scars will always be there, but I'm not defined by my scars. But my scars have molded me to be the person I am out of choice. So I
Mhm.
chose to choose positivity because I lived enough in negativity. I lived enough in the pain. And at some point, you just go, hang on, I'm reliving this every time. I'm reliving the pain every time.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's like my energy is low. I feel lethargic. I don't have any optimism for anything. I'm just going to be miserable for the rest of my life. Your choice.
Your choice. Your choice. Yeah. I remember when somebody asked me if I was depressed. You mentioned depression, and somebody asked me if I was depressed, and I said, I don't think so because I've never been depressed. So I didn't know what it looked like. And I said, well, I thought about it. I said, if that means going to work, sitting at my computer and crying all day, then stopping at the grocery store and buying a cheap bottle of wine, the bottom shelf bottle of wine, because I didn't have any money. So the bottom shelf, drinking the whole bottle by myself and then starting over, I guess I was depressed. I guess that's what that was.
That's a sign. That's a sign for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and again, you know what? That's okay because,
Yeah.
emotions are meant to be spent. You've got to go through all those gamuts. First
Mm.
is the disbelief and the horror of what's being done to you. Then is the crisis emotion of the repercussions of it. Then there's the victimization of the wounded person of what's being done. And then, then is well, what am I going to do now? And at some point you go, okay, all right, all the emotions are spent, all the sad emotions are spent. How about engaging some of the happy ones?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember laying in bed and being so pissed off at God. I remember swearing at him. I'm like, you son of a, I was so mad. I knew other people had gone through things and, oh, miracles happened. I'm like,
Mm,
why not me? What? And I was so, and then I remember thinking, how come I can't be like Job? Job in the Bible, of where I had faith and trust
mm,
all along. And then I realized that was the Sunday school version of Job. That I'd
right.
never actually read Job. So I went and got the Old Testament out and read Job, and I went, oh, he was really pissed off at God too.
Yes.
Okay. God knows we're human.
Yeah.
Life happens. He doesn't do it to, life
Yes.
happens,
Yes.
and you can be mad, and then what? Okay. And like you said, that grieving, all that
Mm.
victimization, now what?
But he'd
I
already
did,
given you the message, or the message was there to give you,
yes,
right?
yes,
There was your okay, what treasure are you talking about? And of course, we immediately think monetary because we're broke,
right, right.
right? But what do you mean I'm the treasure? So I've got to go back to work and do this and that. And no, it is everything you are, the essence of you. And especially after going through what you're going through,
Yeah.
just makes the value of you even more. So if you are the treasure, we don't want to become the hoarder. We want to become the sharer of that treasure.
Right. Share the treasure, share what you've learned.
Mhm.
And I think that's what's so important for everybody that listens, that because people obviously that are listening to your podcast have that the spirituality and wanting
Mm.
to give back. And that's what we're here for. We're here to
Mhm.
learn and to share what we've learned, because there was a while I was going through the imposter syndrome of, oh, I
Yeah.
can't share what I've done because I'm not a PhD. I'm not a
Yes.
whatever. And then all of a sudden I went, no, wait, this is my journey, what I learned, and maybe what I learned, somebody else will learn from. Somebody else might not, but somebody might get a
Yes.
glimmer, might get that gem that goes, oh, that's going to help me,
Yeah.
So it's important for us to share these lessons and what we learn.
The best teachers are those that have gone through it. As I said before, you can have the people with the PhDs and the BBBs and the DDDs,
Right.
and it's like they're so immersed in the knowledge, but they don't have the wisdom on how to use the knowledge. And when you've actually gone through the experience and you've actually gone through the process and you've had to learn that process through your own self-discovery, and you know what works for you, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be a perfect template for someone else, but I believe that inspiration begets invitation. And when you inspire someone, you did what? You were where? You're here now. I'm inspired, so therefore I'm invited to perhaps take those steps myself. They
Right.
don't have to be exactly your footsteps, but even if it's in the same attitude or the same light or the same enthusiasm. You know, sometimes that's maybe what they're meant to get from you. Just that switch. You
Yeah,
can do it too.
you can do it too. Yeah, I'm finding a lot of groups that have women that are going through divorce. I'm getting a lot of
Yeah,
people asking for me to talk about finding your power through loss, because as you said, that's where we find it. May not be where we want to find it, but
exactly.
yeah,
But that is the path that's been chosen for you. You know,
yeah.
it's I'm a firm believer that we are a beautiful instrument, and that our discovery is, what is that instrument? How do I play it?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Master that instrument so you can find your orchestra to play in, and then create that symphony in harmony that resonates out to everyone else. But we are responsible for our instrument. And you can play your instrument solo, that's wonderful. But when you can play it with other people's instruments as well, and you can find that harmonious thread, look how healing that is.
Yes.
Look how resonating that is. But if you didn't master your own instrument, if you didn't know how to play it and how to adapt and how to, harmonize with each other, then it would sound like nails on a chalkboard,
Yeah.
right? So we are here to master our gift, our instrument. We're each and every one of us given one, right? Whatever level it's at, immerse yourself in it. That's the beautiful light that you are. Shine bright.
Shine bright and not avoid it. That's one of the things that
Yeah.
I also did was I'll call myself the queen of avoiding. I didn't want to face it. So I would just, I'll deal with that later. I would sweep it
Mm-hmm.
under the rug. Didn't want to face it. And then I kind of laughed because one day I said, well, I swept enough under, I actually fell over the lump, because I finally had to face it.
Yes.
And it's so hard to finally pull them out and face. But again, we're talking at the very beginning, it's
Mm-hmm.
facing it. And that's the first step to outwitting your fear, is by facing it, whatever it is. And it's usually not as bad as you think it is.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's that fire. And there's a confidence on the other side of that. When
Mm-hmm.
you face it and you step through it, or you say, okay, I'm going to take one action step, or you go down and you figure out what is your core fear that's sabotaging you, there's confidence in that. Wait, I know how to do it. I can do that. Yeah. Yeah.
What we've got to understand, there's love and fear. It's not love and hate, it's love and fear, because fear breeds hate. It
Hmm.
breeds violence, it breeds intolerance, right? But it's the fear. What is fear? It's the fear of unknown. It's the fear of, what if I make a mistake? Or what if I'm not seen? What if I'm not valued? What if I make a fool of myself, right? All of
Right.
those fears that are there. Insecurity is fear. Now, when
Absolutely.
we've been knocked down, especially when you've been in a world where you've been revered, and
Hmm.
then suddenly you're not in that world anymore, and but am I still that person? Well, the essence who made that person revered is still there. That's your treasure. All it is for you to use that essence in a different platform to serve other people in a different way. And we beat ourselves up. Oh, I'm a failure. I shouldn't have done that. Nobody's going to like me. And we can make all the goddamn excuses we want. But at the same time, it is face each one of those excuses in the face. Be defiant. Be
Hmm.
defiant. Find your courage. The strength comes from your courage. And
Right.
as we look at each one of these fears and we outwit them, outplay them, and beat them, right?
Yeah.
That is when we discover our abilities, and we actually literally change the chemistry of our energy in our body. And we actually start healing our body, because our bodies hold all that we are afraid of, and all that
Yeah.
that
All
is
that
evil
cellular
within.
memory. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And we need to get to the root of that fear to release it, so we can release that energy, so our bodies can
Hmm.
optimize again.
And like you're just saying, getting to the root of it, it
Yeah.
is, there are several fears, right?
Mm.
But there's core fears, and the
Yeah.
core fears are fear of being loved, not being loved,
Mm-hmm.
not being trusted, or trusting, I should say, not good enough, not worthy, and being alone. And the bottom line is, if you anything you mention fear wise is a presenting fear, and if you really trickle it down, it would fall into one of those silos.
Yes.
So for example, it could be fear of failure. We're talking business, fear of
Mm.
failure. What if I fail? And that's one of the things that's so cool is when you start peeling the way that, but what if I do? And what would happen? And where would that lead me? And what would happen to my heart? And you start peeling that away, you find out really bottom line, maybe you're afraid of being alone, or you're afraid of not being loved, or what if I'm not good enough? Then when you get down to that core fear, you go, well, wait a minute. Of course I'm good enough, or my family loves me and I love my family, but it's really what's down deep core that scares us. And that's the beauty of it, is when you know what that is, like, I know I'm good enough, you know, I know I'm worthy, but up here I wasn't. Down here I had to figure that out.
Yeah. The journey to self-love is the hardest journey we will ever take. Because we will put every obstacle there is in the way. But when you get to that place of self-love, which that means there is no more self-judgment, you are who you are, you embrace who you are and all your flawsomeness, right? And you know that your presence, your essence is important in whatever aspect of life. But the love of self, you start radiating out. That love of life, love of purpose, love of everything. It starts exuding out, and it starts embracing the people around you, the people that feel it, and it starts inviting them. Oh, I like this feeling. What is this feeling? Right. But the journey to self-love is a rocky road. Right? But if we don't take that journey, if we don't face all those fears, why are we afraid of being alone? I felt lonely all my life because I was a highly spiritual person in a world that just didn't see me. So 20 years ago, I wrote an article, Only the Lonely, lonely in a crowd. You could be talking to someone, but they're not talking to you because they don't know who you are. Right. And so I had to be at home with myself and love myself and be okay with being me in all my flaws and all my well, can't even say the word right now, but whatever the complexities of Sarah is. And that's okay, because the biggest thing is, you can take me or leave me. I won't be offended.
Right. But that's what you figured out.
A long journey, right? We've got to be willing to take it.
Right. And many people, they're afraid of being alone. So they do things to fulfill that prophecy. They push people away. They aren't a good friend. They hide out, whatever it is, so they can be right.
Yes.
See, I knew I was going to be alone. I knew it. Yeah. So again, it goes back to what you mentioned earlier. It's that choice. It's like picking. Yeah. And if you're creating that and you're looking for that to be right, go ahead and be wrong.
Yes.
Go ahead and be wrong this one time.
What happens if you're wrong?
Right. What if you're wrong? And what if you just turn it around and say, you know what, I'm going to be as loving as I possibly can. Yeah. I had a woman tell me one time that just said, I consider myself a lonesome dove. I'm just a lonesome dove. And I went, so are you looking to be, you gave yourself that name. So obviously going back to the law of attraction. Okay. So I'm going to look for things to say, see, I'm right.
Validate. I'm the lonesome dove. Yeah.
I'm validating. Yeah. Instead of ripping up that name and saying, I'm a loving dove. I'm a love dove. I'm a, and looking for that. So it's finding that out. And again, it's facing that. And what names, what are people calling themselves? Like your listeners, what are they calling themselves? What are their names? And again, once those are in their head of either I'm an idiot or a bitch or I'm stupid, whatever, immediately when you catch that, go, no, I'm not. Flip it.
Yeah, I remember 4 years ago, over the first 5 years, I just did audio. And then somebody said to me, Sarah, come on, let's do shows together and let's do video. My first thing that came out of my mouth was like, who wants to see this old bag on video? And then another voice followed it straight afterwards and said, it's not about you, it's about the content.
Yeah.
And if people are offended by looking at me, you can listen to me on 14 other platforms.
Yeah.
You don't have to look at me. But if the looking at me offends you, then you're not ready for the content.
Right. Right. And they're not your person, if that's what it is. Because
that's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing. And I think that's a huge point that you make here. who are we trying to please?
Right.
Because if we're trying to please absolutely everybody, guaranteed there's going to be many people disappointed. Just be yourself.
Hmm.
And who wants to be in your company will be the people that
Right.
see you and feel you. Don't worry about the others. Don't worry
I
about
heard
it.
I heard Wayne Dyer say once, and I'm going to get it wrong because it's been a while, but he said something about if I'm trying to please everybody and there's 1,000 people in the audience, I have to please 1,000 people. That's impossible because
Totally.
everyone, if I say blue, everyone's going to have 1,000 opinions of what that blue means. So I'm
Yes.
just going to be true to myself and share from who I am. And whether they get it or not, that's up to them, you know?
I love
And
Wayne Dyer. He's one of my favorites. Yeah.
I know, I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah. Yes. And you know what? You being you is good enough.
Yeah.
You being you is pretty awesome. You being you, stepping into your meaningful purpose and joy of life and your own exuberance is wonderful.
Yeah. It
Everybody
is.
else is taken. You don't need to be everyone else.
Yeah,
Just be you.
absolutely. And one of the things that I found when I was carrying over my hurt and distrust, because that's a natural thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me about 3.5, 4 years to get into a different relationship before I even dated. And oh, this poor guy. I accused him. I distrusted him. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're gonna screw me. Where were you? Who were you talking to? I mean, I was
Yeah.
that he even put up with me. I was
Mm.
surprised. And one day I I looked at him and I went, "Oh my God, I'm judging you and looking at you through the cracked lenses of my past.
Yeah.
You weren't even there. You had nothing to do with it."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "How unfair
Mm-hmm.
is this of me
Yeah.
to put this on you?" And again, if I would have kept putting it on him, then he would leave, or he would look for situations. Well, she's accusing me anyway. I might as
Right.
well, whatever. But when I realized that I was carrying my history, my baggage forward,
Mm-hmm.
how unfair that was to situations, to people, relationships. I was like, okay,
And,
that's got to stay back there.
and shortchanging yourself to
Yeah,
a wonderful experience because you're comparing it. You
right,
know, it's
right.
or I'm the warrior. I'm going to go up there with my sword ready just in case they're going to do
Yeah,
something.
I'm
Is
going to
that a
get them
way to have a
before
loving
me.
relationship?
Right. I'm going to get him before he gets me. I'm going to do
Exactly.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And I really I can't forget my past. I don't want to act like it didn't happen, but the important thing is to learn from it, like we've been talking about. Learn from that past, embrace it, and then move forward. My son and I, he was so angry, and it was his stepdad that this happened with, and he was so angry, and he would bring it up, and he would get to the point where he was shaking about him. And I I spent probably 3 years apologizing for the marriage, apologizing for this, apologizing and fun. He was on his way off to college, and we were out to dinner, and he and his sister were sitting there, and he brought it up, and I could see it. It was going, it was happening. And I finally said, "Please stop. I can't apologize anymore."
Yeah.
And I said, "And every time this happens, it makes me go like this and look behind me. And I can't go this way if I keep looking behind me.
Yeah.
So we have to stop this conversation." And he looked at me. Now, this time he was 19 years old. He looked at me and he went, "Okay, what kind of pizza do you want?"
Yes.
And he stopped, and he's never brought it up again. But it was
Right.
such a good lesson because, again, if we just stay in that conversation, we
Mm-hmm.
can't move forward. So that would be my
Exactly.
first piece of advice: is if somewhere along the line, if you're in that spiral of negative of what's going on, there's going to be a point where you're going to say, "Okay, I'm going to give myself one more day to beat this situation up, and then I'm moving on," or
Right.
whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm 21 years since I separated from my husband, and we both walked our daughter down the aisle, and not this last a couple of weekends ago, it was my grandson's first birthday, and we were all at my daughter's house. That means the aunts and uncles with their significant others. His grandparents just lived down the way; they came up, and my ex was there, right? And at one time, he blew up at me, and my kids just said, "Take that outside. We don't need that in here." Right.
Right,
and
good
i
for them.
and i didn't respond. I just smiled. I'm not going to engage with this. And then he calmed down, and he just, what it was is, in the past everybody would have got upset, and now
Yeah,
it was shut it down. This is not your day. This is not about you. This is about this little one and the joy of this little one, and how it's brought the
exactly.
family together. And it ended up being a beautiful weekend. And it's like, for me, it was a clear reminder. Look where you could have still been. You wouldn't have been alive for a start, right? But look
Mhm.
what every time, this is another show I did about, kind of looking back to move forward. Oh, I haven't got to my goal. I haven't got where. Look back to where you've come from. How far removed are you from there? Right? It's, are
Right?
you stuck at the moment? Okay, what do you need to get unstuck? But stop going, I've got to be at the goal at this date or that date, and just look at how far you've come. You used to be in the sewage, right? Now you're on a beautiful beach in the sunlight, right? Congratulate yourself for how far you've come and how far you're still going.
Absolutely. I had to take a picture of you. You're beautiful.
Thank you. But we learn from all of this, and that's the beauty of it. And I love the title of your course, Outwit, fear, because it really, that's what it is. Fear
Yeah,
it's just systemic in us. It's in the tissue, it's in the DNA, it's in past life, it's in memories, it's in society. And really what we've got to do, just like we would on our computer, is a good cleanse, a good
right.
deleting of some programs. And then people, well, how do I do that? So can you tell people how they do that in your program?
Yes. And why somebody asked me, how come you don't call it overcoming fear?
Mm.
Because I think it's hard to overcome fear because we're faced with fear all the time. It shows up in different ways. And I can't just say, oh, okay, I'm going to overcome this. I first have to figure out how to outwit it.
Yeah.
I have to figure out what it is. I have to face it. I have to look at it. I have to call it by its name, and then figure out these tools. Okay, what is that? Is that the present? Is that really the core fear,
Yeah.
or is that just the presenting
One of the
fear?
level. Mm.
Yeah, is that deeper down? And how can I, now that I'm aware of it, I know it. And literally, what I say to myself, and in my course, Outwitting Fear, I have people go through the peeling of the onion, so they get down to
Mm-hmm.
that core fear, and then the steps that they can do. But bottom line is knowing what it is. So when let's say I get in an argument with my guy, and we just start, something comes up, and we rarely argue, but let's say it does come up, and I get really pissed off, and then I start getting that feeling of being punched in the gut or
Mm.
whatever. I stop, and I literally, my 3 to 5 seconds before I react, as I think, is this my insecurities? Is this my fear of not being good enough or not worthy? Is this trusting? Is that what this is? Or am I just mad at him? You
Mm.
know? But once I know, and if it comes up that it's my insecurity of not being good enough, I immediately say, hey, I know who you are. You
Yeah.
haven't worked for me before. It's not going to work for me right now. So
I
thank you
fired
for
you.
being here. But I got this one.
Yeah.
Thank you. But it's knowing what it is. The problem is when we don't know, and it
Yeah.
keeps that pattern you said earlier, it keeps showing up and showing up and showing up, and we keep repeating it. So
Because
it's
it's all we
facing it.
know until
Right.
somebody shows there's a different program.
Yes. Yes. So that's what it's all about. And it's peeling away, getting down to that so that you know exactly what it is. And can I tell you real, I'm going to tell you, can I tell you a real quick story?
Yes.
Okay. So the woman that cuts my hair, she was putting some foil in my hair, and she got a text, and she slammed the phone down and said, oh, God, I hate that client. And I said, why? And she said, she's always asking me to change her appointment to evenings or the weekends. And those are my times.
Mm.
I don't want to do it. And I said, well, why don't you fire her? And she said, oh, I can't. I need the money. Okay, well, that's the presenting fear, right? I
Right.
need the money. So I said, well, what would happen if you didn't have the money? And she said, oh, it's summer and the kids have to go to camp, and they would be, I wouldn't be able to send them to camp. I'm the one responsible for that. I said, okay, well, if they didn't go to camp, where would that leave you? And so she said, well, they would be home and they'd be mad at me. And I said, what would that do to your heart? And she said, it would break my heart. I feel like I let them down. And I said, okay, what if you let them down? And so we went through like
Mm.
3 or 4 questions, just kind of kept digging down to the point where within about 5 minutes, she went, I'm afraid they wouldn't love me.
Mm.
And she went, oh my God, I'm keeping clients that I don't like because I'm afraid my family may not love me if I don't bring. And it just went
Yeah.
for her.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't process. She came back and said, I fired that client. And I went, oh, well, I didn't mean like right the minute. Okay. And she said, but the minute I fired her, I got a text from a woman who's been dying to get into me and wanted on my schedule double the income of what she needed. And she said, I replaced that. So she made space
Yes.
for more.
Right.
And it was beautiful when
Yeah.
she,
And it was being
oh,
blocked.
good.
She couldn't embrace the answer. She couldn't embrace the solution because she was nurturing the problem too
She
much.
was so afraid of letting that go. But when she
Yeah.
realized it, she said, of course my family's going to love me.
Hmm.
That's crazy.
Yes. Well,
But
because
then
you
when she let
can't
it go,
afford
it
to send them
changed
to summer
everything.
camp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And love isn't that shallow. Love, true love is way, way deeper than that. But, there's something you brought up, which was the insecurity, where people think that once you've gone through a program, that none of these things are ever going to come up again.
Right,
Yes, they do.
right.
They do. They're part of your makeup. They're part of life. The difference is you know how to address them. You
Yes,
know how to show them the door before they open up the whole can of worms, right?
right.
And that's
Perfectly
the
said.
power that we have, is to say, sorry, I fired you. You're no longer
Yeah,
my client.
you're no
Right.
longer mine. That's right.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
right. And so before we can overcome it, we have to outwit it, which is by knowing that, showing them the door. And then all of a sudden what's going to happen is it's going to get less and less. You're not even going to see it anymore because it finally goes away. It finally fades away. But it takes some time because it does show back up. It just doesn't
Yes.
go away.
And it
But
doesn't,
outwit it.
yes. And it's not showing back up to kind of reconsume you. It's a
Mhm.
test, or it's just that you're still kind of maybe got some residual there. I mean, I've still got things from 20 years ago that still come up. And I look at, I'm sorry, I haven't got time for you. Where in the
Yeah.
past it would be, ah!
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And it's
Oh,
it's okay. It's okay. It also is, again, that wonderful reflection of, once upon a time, I would have fed you. And now I'm not going to give you a scram of anything
yeah.
because I don't need you. And you look at it, go, look how strong I've become.
Yeah. Look how
Yeah,
far I've come.
yeah, yeah. And give yourself a pat on the back and a big hug because look how far you have come.
Yeah.
But still,
Yeah.
how
It's a
far
big,
we have got to go, because until we exit this body, we're still on that wonderful journey of self-discovery.
yeah. It's a beautiful journey.
It is, isn't it? I mean,
Mhm.
if you had the opportunity to go back to your advertising world, would you?
No, no. I'm
Right.
having too much fun now and I'm working with clients that I enjoy. I loved all my clients. I really
Mm.
did. But I'm picking about 4 projects at a time, consulting, and I'm speaking, and I'm working on this course and working on a course for outwitting fear for cancer for a friend of
Mm.
mine with who deals a lot with breast cancer patients. And so I just love this. I love where I am right now. And that the advertising marketing gave me the tools for what I needed. And that's the
Yes.
other thing is you look at your life, you go, oh, that's why I did that, and that's why I did that,
Yes.
and that's what it's a big
Yes.
block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it isn't like, oh, I was a failure in that. No, no, no. Everything prepared you for what you're really meant to do. And
Yeah.
as far as I've got 2 cancer shows this week, which I invite you to listen to because it was something you could incorporate in.
I absolutely will.
Well, one of them is actually on what cancer really is, and he's an excellent doctor who knows how to speak to it in layman terms. And
Okay.
and the other one is all about the energetically changing and shifting so that cancer doesn't take hold. So, a lot of cancer is we can manage cancer or prevent cancer a great deal from our immune system and most certainly our emotion. Stress, folks, anxiety, stress, which very often ignites the fear, is the number one killer because it opens the door to everything else,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
keeping your stress down, taking that deep breath before you react, being
Mhm.
more zen and more loving and nurturing towards yourself in your life is imperative.
Absolutely.
So how do people sign up for your course and when is it?
It's an online course. It's outwittingfear.com. Just go to that. If they put in the promo code POWER, POWER, as in finding your power through loss, there's 10% off. So it is an amazing course. The testimonials have been amazing, just beautiful. People are finding so much freedom from getting down and figuring out what triggers them, what
Mm,
what gets that going, and then finding out what their core fear is and how that ways to outwit it. It's really very cool. And it takes about an hour. Some people takes a little longer, some people it takes a little less. Um, but it's at your own pace. It's
Yeah.
video guide sheets, and so it's truly your course for you.
Right. And it sets you on your path. It isn't like, oh, I do it once and forget it. It is a reset
Yes,
to set you on a new path that
yes,
you have to be willing to participate and immerse yourself in. This isn't like
absolutely.
just take the pill and I'm going to be okay.
No,
This is work that you need and willing to do for yourself.
yes. And once you've downloaded, you can do it many different times, because I have
Mm,
people that do it different situations that come
yeah.
up. So it's yours. You can say save it as a PDF, or you can just keep going through it when things come up and go, why is that? Why is
Yeah.
that bugging me so much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there will be always things that come up, and you
Yeah,
want to get down to the root of it so that it doesn't take root on you.
I love that. I might steal that.
Go ahead. You also have your own site.
Yes, lisabeththomas.com. And that's where my background, I do marketing, I
Mhm.
speak. So if somebody wants for me to speak or help them with a workshop, I would love to. So they can reach out to me through that or through outwittingfear.com.
So
Absolutely.
lisabeththomas.com or
Yes,
outwittingfear.com.
absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yay.
I wish we could talk longer. I know you've got to go. Please come on back again. I've
I
enjoyed this
will.
tremendously. I love it when people embrace their meaningful purpose, that wonderful redirect they get, and that and the way that it then illuminates others and shows them their own light. Because the more people that are lit up and are stepped into their wonderful vibrational essence, the more we actually heal humanity, but also the planet and therefore the universe. So it's really kind of imperative that we are willing to do this for ourselves,
Yes,
right?
I hear you. Absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Oh, thank you very much. So folks, remember, outwitting fear. Fear is your enemy only because you are feeding it. When you outwit it and you look to the root of the problem and you go, hey, fear, all right, I'm getting down to the core of you. I see you, I hear you, I release you so I can move on and discover what I'm really here for. And when you do, it's really, really exciting. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. Please tune in to our selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows and you will see all the other genres that we have from you. Every week on Tuesday, we bring you new shows from illuminating people. If you know someone that should be interviewed, please contact us at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com. Now stay tuned for your next show.